Comp, thanks for visiting us in the SAINTCON Hallway. It's always a pleasure to chat with you.
Well, nice. Yeah.
There's actually a question I don't know, and if I don't know, there's definitely at least one other person who doesn't know. How? Okay, your hacker handle Comp,
Yes.
self-assigned, earned. How did that
So
come to be?
self-assigned. So in the when I was high school, which was quite a long time ago, in the late '80s, early '90s, there's a Belgian industrial like music band called Front 242. Their most popular song around that time was Headhunter, and then they had one that was called Welcome to Paradise. That's when I started listening to them. So I went back into their discography, and they had a song called Kampf, which is like ready for battle.
Okay.
And it's this weird song, but I took that as my handle. But then I started getting on FNet, maybe 96, 97, and that's far too many characters. The limit is still 8 as far as I know. So I just shortened it down.
Comp Beret. What was the rest of it?
Kampfbereit.
Bereit. Ready for battle. We're gonna go fight.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
And because it got shortened and I never really went back to it, at some point I thought, well, Kampf it's literally it's a German word, and if I'm going to use it more places, like I have that handle on Twitter. I got it at Black Hat 206, I think, on my little T-Mobile
Sidekick.
No. This was the Candy Bar SDA and Windows Mobile,
Yeah.
but it wasn't a touchscreen. So I signed up for Twitter on that. Grabbed Kampf, but that's an account that I don't follow very many people on. So when I decided to maybe if I'm getting an account on, another account on Twitter, which is Existenzkampf, that became my name other places where I wanted a handle that was different and that I could probably get. Because Kampf it's a dictionary word, but it's taken a lot of places.
Gotcha.
And
A lot of
so
people masquerading as comps out there.
well, it's a surname as well. As far as I know, it's a German surname. So somebody might have it.
That makes sense. How did you get into InfoSec?
I've been waiting for this question because I am not an InfoSec.
But, okay, I get that. Maybe for your day job, but aren't you an InfoSec? Meaning, aren't you a part of this community? Aren't you a participant and producer and somebody who gives into it as well? Like, isn't that InfoSec? What is InfoSec? My definition, you are definitely an InfoSec.
I will take that and I will roll with it because my long-running career has been in desktop support. And so when I was hanging around with some friends, my origin story was in the early 90s, we got a 286 and then we had a 386. And one of my younger brothers, he seemed to know more than I did. And I'm the oldest.
Right.
And that was not cool. So I had to know more than him. And so, we'd be down in the basement trying to get Doom 2 to run faster and breaking the computer and trying to get it back up and running before mom and dad came home. So I started tinkering. It became, got my first computer when I worked at America Online in Ogden, and just went through and eventually turned it into a career. And in the very late 90s and early 2000s, I started hanging around with some folks around northern Ogden or northern Utah. So Ogden, Layton, in that area.
Those shady characters.
Very shady because, I met Grifter in like 2000.
That is all downhill from there.
Well, yeah.
No, we love Grifter.
I You can't not really. You just have to be some kind of you'd have to be somebody who's trying to be as important as he is.
Yeah, and as pretty as he is.
But he had such an impact on the community because he was like fresh out of the Air Force, and we were all nerds of different levels, and we'd go down to UT 2600, and that's how far back I go. Is it had been around for a little while, but he so kick-started it that I gave a talk on WEP in like 2001 and how important it was and how it worked, and you shouldn't have open access points. But that was my sort of introduction to some of the people. And then, so Grifter had gone to DEF CON, I think 8 was his first. I didn't really want to go to DEF CON because my career at the time wasn't like Packer-ish. But when myself, Deadhead, the late Verus, and Grifter, and I think one other person, we sat down for lunch at a Chinese buffet in Layton that's long gone, and he showed me this big old, like 4 or 5 pages of items for the scavenger hunt for DEF CON 10, because that's when Grifter rebooted it. It had been dormant for a few years. And I looked at this list and I thought, boy, that looks fun. Like, I'll help run this. I'll come down. Sure, I've got vacation time. I'm not going anywhere. So my introduction to like the real InfoSec community was DEF CON 10, Alexis Park. And then later that year, he invited me to go down to Vegas again, to the Alexis Park again for ApacheCon 2002. So the Apache Software Foundation, the
right.
web server, all of the ecosystem. And I met some interesting people down there. Sherelle, who until recently was the DEF CON producer. Shatter, the old security goon. A lot of the Sound of Knowledge and Source of Knowledge guys were doing the filming as well. And this was in November, and so it was still fresh in my mind. And incidentally, Shatter, because I could literally sit in a room and not wander off. That's how I got to be a goon. He said, "Yeah,
Kampf, you stay put. You're good."
Yeah. So we're walking like across from Hard Rock or going to one of the taco places at Hard Rock, back to the AP, and he's like, "You're a goon." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds cool. Like, I can keep going to this thing. It looks kind of interesting." And so through ApacheCon and DEF CON, I eventually did shows in Europe with Apache and related projects. So we did 3 Europe shows, 4 directly for Apache, 2 in the UK, and then 1 in Spain for Lucene, which is an Apache-related project. And then I've been to China twice with DEF CON.
Wow.
That's because of kind of what's behind me, all of the music stuff, and that I've been a radio DJ for 17 years. Do stuff on Soma FM. But because I got involved and around DEF CON, after DEF CON 18, I was given the opportunity to run my own department. So workshops was first spun up when we moved from the Riviera to the Rio. That was a pretty big jump in space, and they knew what to do with everything but these rooms all the way at the end of the hall. And DT always wanted to do workshops like he'd been doing at Black Hat. And so it was like, "Hey, you seem competent. Do you want to, will you take this over from Nikita and make it work?" And I said, "Oh, okay. So we did it. It went quite well. We had one talk that didn't really get much traction, but we had a couple. I can't remember who it was, but he was giving some wireless talk, and we kept putting people in. That was a success. The next year, I got to work with Sherelle, who I'd done a bunch of work with previously, and I got to be more involved in human registration, which is the goons, artists, press, things like that. And so I was like creeping behind the scenes, and kind of parallel to that, I'd also been I helped out at Black Cat 2003, which, I mean, when you were talking to Fink, it was hilarious because, you know, he runs the Knock. I've got a picture of the Knock at 03. And it's like a Cisco 2600 and some lucent, like the Orinoco gold, like wall mounts. I think 3 of those. That was it.
Right. Different times.
Yeah, very different times. People didn't expect wireless.
And not 20,000 people. Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably 1,500.
Right.
At Caesars, and I came back for 5, 6, 7, and 8, and I got to know really cool people in the community, like Russ, and that's how I could ask him for SAINTCON to please come keynote. Like, this is a place you'll really, really, really like. And so I was, you know, it's really nice to be able to leverage those experiences and working with him at DEF CON and Black Hat and at Apache in like 08. He and Lost were there at Apache Con in Atlanta. That was really fun to hang out with those guys, not at DEF CON.
Right.
Frequently the best time to hang out.
You're like, wait, they just put on their pants too? They're just people?
Yeah.
What do you think about DEF CON Black Hat as big as they are? Good thing? Not good thing?
Well, they're kind of two sides of the same black coin. It's really fascinating how large DEF CON has become, but it's still like DT. He takes so much effort to keep it as genuine as he can, but make it keep it an open conference. Keep it affordable, but his genius was, or whatever it was, his master stroke was talking his DEF CON speaking friends into coming over to Black Hat, speaking there. Like, yeah, I can't pay you at DEF CON very much, but if we do this professional thing that people will attend, and they can be from a 3-letter or a big corporation who's just starting to spin up, you know, InfoSec related, you know, in the year 99, 2000. They're just spinning this stuff up. They have budgets.
Right.
So they, you know, we can charge 10 times the price or however much it was in the early days, and I can give you a cut of that. So I can make your life better because you're helping me here. Helping the community, which he cares more about the community than he cares about the money coming in from Black Cat. I genuinely, honestly believe that. But that he was able to get out of it at a really, really good time. But as far as I can tell, it still has, Black Cat has an air of legitimacy, and he's been able to maintain those two. Quite a feat, and I'm still a fan.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, I get the argument. It's kind of, some things are hard to do, right? If you want to sit down and solder, you got to time it. You know, like, good luck. You got to find a table, which has its pros and cons. You can sit and talk to people, but overall, I think, man, there's just so many people, and I'm like, how many DEF CONs you been to? And like, it's the first one. And just watch them. It's kind of like the Mike chat with Snow. Just watch their eyes just open with one topic, you know, whether it's phys-sec or breaking into something, just like, what? You can do things like that? And you're like, yeah, that's this industry. And just what like you can have careers out of this, and you're like, people do it all day. This is a thing. I generally, I mean, I'm a fan. I came in later to it, but I like Black Hat a lot. I like, really, it's this. I like the networking of both of those cons, and they're very different, but I like both angles of it. I do like sitting and chatting with the corporate whatever. I also absolutely love just getting in the weeds and going technical and nerdy and learning new things about both. And I think they're both, they have their place. And then I think SAINTCON absolutely has its place too. Like if you actually want to go and get your hands on stuff, and instead of waiting in line for all day or getting stuck in a hallway all day, you could typically get where you want to get. You might have to wait for a soldering iron here or there, but it's like a 20-minute wait. It's not like 4-hour wait type of thing. So
yeah, there's a lot of beauty in that.
Right.
And every village, there are so many villages now that there were like 4 at DEF CON 15, 6. Now there's 25.
Right.
So
right.
You have to have space.
Right. Yeah, this year is going to be wild. Full expo hall center, and instead we're virtual, which you had a hand in running some of that too. I don't know if you're allowed to tell us, like, high level, how did it go from an inside perspective? From my external perspective, it seemed like for going virtual, it went about as smooth as it could. I didn't see any servers getting, denial of service or attacked, or all the things that maybe people were a little weary of with this kind of crowd going online. It seemed to flow and go okay. I obviously would rather be there in person, hanging out with people, but for a COVID era, I don't know. From outside, it seemed to go fine. What about your side?
It went really well. I didn't have as much input on the whole process as I would have maybe had in some previous years, but seeing what I saw, I got in very early on the Discord, probably sometime in May, and I watched Riverside and Mobhead and some guys, tinkering around, and they were pretty serious about, like, we've looked around and this is our best chance. This is something we can do in an integrated product, and we can stream out and use these other services. We just have to start now and figure out and think of everything and test and get in touch with Discord and coordinate with them. And 2 months ago, I really complimented him. We were having a brief chat. I said, "You still have 2 months." And he had that look and the tone in his voice that said, "I wish I had 4."
Right.
Because he thought, and I would say most department leads were mildly terrified.
Yeah, it's changed.
And it's a huge change. They ramped up. They did a lot of training. There were like April and from DCG, and they did a lot of policy stuff. They had moderating guides and speaker ups.
What about attendance? Did attendance decrease because it's online? Did it increase because it was free?
It was only, and you can check right now, it's under 22,000.
I mean, but so, I maybe I shouldn't say this. I love me DEF CON. I love me the content, but I found myself, because I'm at home, just family priorities. Like, I had my list. Here's Saturday. I'm going to do this and this. And I maybe hit 20% of it because it was like, the kids need me. Whereas if I'm in Vegas, I'm just devoted, right? Like I'm going from thing to thing. So, I mean, I even found myself, who like really loves DEF CON, not participating as probably as much as I historically would have.
Yeah, yes, and that is a situation that I'm not necessarily in. And my other obligations, like with music, like I spent over 10 hours using these guys.
Right.
So got some turntables here, and I was spinning records on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I kind of had my nose in chat, and because of I would say that because if people have a role or like a career interest, something specific, they probably paid a bit more attention.
Right.
I paid attention because I was ingesting information as it came in for my job at DEF CON, and so I was getting those, wow, this is DEF CON moments during early and then in the afternoon and then at evening. They were happening. There was that separation of not being there physically, but it was the holy crap, I'm chatting with my friends,
Right.
and they're at home or.
I was about to say that was the other luxury, right? There's a lot of people who don't maybe have the same luxury I do of getting to go to Black Hat DEF CON every year, and they get to go this year, and maybe that is their luxury. I was able to spend time with family and go, right, instead of looking at the negative. It was super positive. I'm hanging out with my kids, and now I'm suddenly in DEF CON, and then I'm back to hanging out with my kids, and so I mean that is a luxury, right? Especially across the globe and travel costs. Like in Utah, we're a little lucky. Like Vegas is, not terribly far, but man, if you're in some other country around the world, suddenly you could just be there. That's pretty exciting.
It's a huge investment for people who have to travel across a continent or from a different country or from different hemisphere. So I've had a friend for a long time. First met him at DEF CON 20, and he lived until recently in South Africa.
That's some commitment. Yes,
it really, really is. That's a trip. And we just jump in the car, and 7 hours later, approximately, we're in Vegas and didn't even have to rush.
Yeah, I was about to say, you're going kind of slow there, Dave. 7 hours. 7 hours. You could do it in like 5. But
yeah, I can. Yeah, I can.
just got to put that foot down. But speaking of records and DJing, you showed us a little. You are like, I mean, like, I like music, right? Don't get me wrong. But like, I feel like I don't really like music when I stack next to somebody like you. Like, you're really into music. This is not a Zoom virtual background behind you. This is, I mean, you've already showed us the one thing. These are like records and full-on DJ studio.
Yeah, I've got a really nice Heil mic back here. Got a Joe Meek 3Q. It's a compressor equalizer up in here. 4-channel Newmark. USB goes to, pick a MacBook. There are only 4 sitting there. USB out, and I can record. This is a 1968 Marantz Model 27.
So what you're saying, if somebody wants to get to know Kampf, and they're a little nervous because he's like DC 7 to present, like OGs.
10. This is only my.
Okay, apologies. I mean, it's pretty close. It's been a lot of years. 15, whatever. You're one of the OGs, and they want to chat with you, but are scared to. You're saying just come up any of the audio files and just start talking to you about super expensive high-end audio stuff, DJing, maybe even just getting started at it, and game. Yeah. That's your intro?
Yeah. Music, equipment, and like Marv, I've never pitted or crewed, but I also like my sports cars, F1, all of that kind of stuff. Awesome. Road rally cross, things like that.
Do you restore any cars? Do you have any like that?
No.
They're just so expensive. How does Marv afford these things?
Because
I like them too, but it's like, oh man, you're $30K to do something right, and sometimes in some of those cars is like 100 plus. Like, it's crazy.
They're Saabs. They can't be that expensive.
I'm gonna tell him you said that. I restored a Ford pickup and I sunk 30 grand into it. Like, you could go crazy on anything. That music room you just laid out, I don't even know the things you're saying, and I feel like I'm pretty good at music, so all I'm hearing is dollar signs. That is not cheap gear you're rocking.
There's a couple pretty nice pieces in there. I did probably between 2000 and 2008 do some Subaru tuner car stuff. I never had a WRX because what do I look like, a kid?
How big of a spoiler?
Sorry, Meta, that's for you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Skylines too. How big of a spoiler did you get?
It was one of, I think, 6 imported to the United States by a company called Sims of Japan, SYMS. First saw it on a Subaru Legacy, a second generation sedan at SEMA, and about 2 years later, the company that was showing the car had them for sale on their website, and so I bought one. It was just a lip spoiler that
Gotcha.
poked right off the edge, really. So yeah, I had a 2000 Subaru Legacy GT Limited, cams, equal length headers, Cobb intake. I knew a lot of the guys at Cobb and Modern Garage and Solid Auto Works when they were in Salt Lake. Solid's still there, but everything else is kind of gone. Yeah, know some of those guys, know some tuning stuff, music. Again, I'm not as crazy about beer mostly beer as Marv, but I know a thing or two.
Right.
So, but like when I first talked to you, we'll go to the hallway thing. My first chat with you was the second year at Weber, and we nerded out over the Nexus 5X.
Yeah, just random cell phone stuff. Yep.
Yep, and I bought one and I hated it.
Yeah, and I think you had a bad battery or something because yours kept dying fast, right?
Yeah, and
but I loved it. I still have the thing, and I put Ubuntu on it. It still works.
I'm surprised because they had the V10 and the 5X had a lot of cold solder problems.
I don't know. I got lucky, but I've been pretty happy. I mean, I have the both. I got the Nexus 4 and the iPhone, right? Work and pleasure type of thing. But
well, I was a phone nerd, an Android nerd up until kind of recently. I was flashing O2 firmware onto a T-Mobile MDA to get different features on Windows Mobile and stuff.
And I did the opposite. I flashed Android on a Windows Mobile phone.
Yeah, I did that to an HTC Leo.
Yeah. I think it was the same one. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. That was the most. That was the phone, and it's a good name, Leo, because it was like a cat with 9 lives. Like you could run everything on that.
I think I still have it. I don't give up my cell phones because I get scared. I see all these, Kim Thompson and these videos where they're doing chip off and like recovering all your data, and I'm like, I don't know what's on these, so I keep them. I really should just melt them down or something. But I got a stack of cell phones.
Well, Dark Matter got me. Dark Matter and Kim, they did a presentation first or second year at the UVCC about wiggling. Mm-hmm. I was like, I did that, and I have a Yagi and an Omni over there that me and Grifter and Deadhead would drive around in a Saturn, stumbling.
That's
just
awesome.
Because it was just cool, and I used a compact iPac 3935, the PCM CIA sleeve, and an Orinoco Gold, and then I clip in that little, I don't remember what the connector type is, and I'd run NetStumbler. And I still had those logs until I joined Wiggle, and I uploaded them all. I was like, I don't need this anymore.
Here's some data from a decade ago.
And so now I'm like number 81 in the world with 912 or 15,000 new networks.
Is Spicer ahead of you?
No. I schooled him.
Nice.
He petered out at like 250.
Gotta step it up.
But Kim's like 3rd in the world or 4th in the world.
Jeez.
He's a machine, but he travels.
Right.
So he's got, he's like that guy with Pokemon Go with the 35 phones.
But just capturing everybody's packets and recording all your SSIDs to the internet.
Yeah. So that's a fun side hobby. I have a couple of the mounts that stick on my window.
Nice.
A couple phones.
I may or may not have used some Yagis to inject into a bunch of Logitech devices, but it's weird.
I may or may not have pointed to your talk for my university, and and they they got scared.
I saw a lot of knock people like, hey, our knock moved to wired mouse and keyboards. I'm like, that's a win. Like,
Well,
or keep it patched. You know, can kind of do one or the other.
there are some more important departments on campus than Knox,
Fair.
and and they may have been using wireless keyboards.
I still see them everywhere, but I mean, now there is an actual patch out, so that's good.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, all right. What is your favorite? Let's gonna briefly touch on SAINTCON because we're in SAINTCON Hallway. I think this is all related, but what year did you start to SAINTCON? Weber, or was it before? Or sorry, not, yeah,
It was
or
it was the second year Weber. I went over the first year because I work on that campus, and it's literally I walked out the building and across the way and saw
what year was that?
that was 15.
So do we started SAINTCON the same year? That's the first year I went, I think. So
Pretty sure. Yeah.
we'll just call that the start of SAINTCON. Everything else before, nah,
Don't matter.
don't matter. What's your favorite memory from SAINTCON to present? Like from 2015 to 2020? I guess 2019.
It was really awesome to see two keynote speakers that I either been a friend with or suggested.
You got them there. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, seeing Sherry on a YouTube video and seeing her story about how she had two lives, her professional life and her hacker life. And I thought, this is a person who I think, especially because they choose to live in the Mountain West in Montana, they'd probably be down for a smaller conference. And then Russ, I've known for years.
Sherry is awesome. I've known her for years before that. I'm a big fan of Sherry.
And another moment was 2 years ago at our Hack in the Box, and I have a picture of Punk, Grifter, and like Dark Matter eating ice cream cones, and it's just like.
You know, Nemus just told me one of his favorite moment was hanging out in those Hack in the Box places. So literally, his favorite moment is something that you had a hand in. So that's pretty exciting.
Well, and that was a really we should do this. Dark Matter was like, hey, let's do this thing, and it came out because, bless them, but Troy and Kelly and Kevin were either didn't know how to party. Kevin knows how to party a little bit, or they were just too busy with the con to think about doing anything after the doors close.
Right.
And it came up a couple times at Weber because people would go back to like the Ben Lomond Hotel or wherever, and they'd hack on stuff. There was no place to be, and like that middle year at Weber, Troy brought in a DJ. He served pizza. It didn't work, and he would.
That was the bowling alley one.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so when we found out we were moving to Provo,
you're like, this is gonna get only more lively in Provo.
Well, it's like now it's on us. Like,
yeah,
we've got to take this over, and so. Meta wanted to we sort of volunteered. Let's do something, and it went from being Meta and myself to Dark Matter and myself, and so we spun up. First year worked pretty good. We did our little vinyl cuts, the triangular one, and then we did the ice cream sandwich badge, which that concept was. I'm pretty sure that was my idea of, okay, A doesn't want us to get bigger than 0.8 by 0.8. That's only 2 dimensions. Let's go up. And it became just big enough. And, like with DEF CON, it only had 22,000 people, but you had to do a little work to get in. Again, it's like WEP. WEP just made it a little harder for people to get in. Doing a CAPTCHA made it a little harder for people to get into DEF CON, so it wouldn't get overflowed. when we're asking for people to donate, we're taking that money, we're paying for
Space.
the property,
Yeah.
paying for the badges. And then like 2 years ago, we donated thousands of dollars to a charity.
Right. Assuming nobody trashes the place. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've done it for 4 years, and we get our deposit back or however it works. There's no big deal. People are so well behaved. It gets very loud.
Right.
But we've had such a great venue, and people are really conscientious. They're out in the garage doing projects, or tinkering on the Mystery Challenge stuff a couple of years ago, or Hacker Challenge, all kinds of stuff. So, that's really good to hear, and it's great anytime we get people that just say how much they love it.
Right.
And one of these days I'll get to PoolCon, but that's when hacking the box isn't happening.
I do a lot of PoolCon, but I also have to work 7 a.m. shifts, so it's like there's this give and pull there. All right, well, we've eaten up a lot of your time. Appreciate it. You want to give us, you have this super fancy camera you were showing me. You want to give us a quick tour of your room? Because I feel like we could spend another 2 hours just what's that? Explain that. What's that? Explain that. But
all right, I'm going to pan over to camera right. So, we got a couple nice speakers here, Edirol. They're just kind of bookshelf speakers. This is hooked to a PC. Yonder, I used this setup with OBS, Discord for all of my DEF CON streaming. I've got a couple prints here, a painting, print, got a DEF CON 13 poster, print here, another print, DJ Shadow. Picked that up at South by Southwest, which I've also done. And we'll pan over. Some framed albums up here. So Joshua Tree from U2, Suicidal Tendencies' first self-titled. My wife, one of her favorite albums is Station Station from David Bowie. That is Front 242's Headhunter, and then Rage Against the Machine, self-titled. Also, can't really see behind there.
No, I can see something is there with a brown circle and a white in the middle of it.
That's me.
Oh.
That is my Faces of DEF CON. I was part of that.
Nice.
Another story, but...
Do you have the German record from your name?
Yeah.
You don't need to pull it out. I was just curious.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, I'll take your word for it, man.
It's on front by front.
You don't need to mess up your ordering system either for me.
An cassette.
There you go. Wait, what's a cassette?
I know, right? It's a musical device developed in the 1960s.
Are you saying that's the same technology that's on the back of my credit card?
Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed.
So, just some recording laptops. So, this particular turntable I bought from Variable last year. He had it, and after B-Sides last year, he saw that I brought this Technics 1210 M3D and a new mark. He said, "Hey, I have one of those. Do you want to buy it?" And so I bought it, and so now I have a pair.
Yeah, you're like, I need another one.
Well, yes, because you need to be able to go from one song to another elegantly. And so thanks, Variable, for this. I have wanted this arrangement for a very long time, and it literally took me 13 years. I got this in 06. So, like I said, I've got an EQ compressor in here and Heil mic going into the mixer. So I've got a bunch of CDs. These are pared down, a lot of stuff that I've collected over the years.
You skipped the wrong direction, I think, because now I can't see what you're pointing at. There you go.
So I'm pointing that way, and the camera in that way.
I was
right?
like, wait, what are we looking at right here?
And the Logitech logo is right way up. I don't get it. I think maybe it's because you point it at it.
Gotcha.
So, and then a lot of vinyl.
Right.
So my focuses are on jazz. It can be from the 20s up to the 60s usually. Hip hop from the 90s, and then some from the 2000s, and then
So just straight up Beastie Boys is what you're saying.
I've got License to Ill right here. The Gatefold. Oh, come on.
I think that was the answer to a lot of my security questions at one point in my life.
Yeah, and so and I've got all kinds of. When I DJ, it's usually electronic music based.
Right.
Just because when I started my radio, when Luke or A started the radio show, Nerd Show, in 2003, that was the music we were listening to. And it's a genre of music called RPM. When at the time, College Music Journal called it RPM music. And when you get into that ecosystem, music companies they hire promotional agency to send out their music to radio stations. And we focused on that area and for getting brand new, fresh music. And then I take nibbles out of world and hip hop. And so Nerd Show is a combination of modern electronic music, world music, and some underground hip hop. So that's a lot of what this is.
So what you're saying is you don't have enough things to do, and you're looking for more things to do.
I don't know about that.
All right, Kampf, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for the show and tell. Super interesting. We could legitimately just spend hours and why would you need that? And explain that. But I think we've exhausted enough of your afternoon. And a pleasure to talk to you as always, and look forward to hopefully seeing you in person in the future.
Same.